everyone. Welcome to Las Vegas. Welcome to the Consumer Electronics Show. Thanks a lot for joining our panel. There's no better way to kick off 2024 than discussing one of the most vibrant, most dynamic industries that is out there, the automotive industry. Why it is vibrant and dynamic? This is mostly true for the car. We have electrified the car, autonomous out there. There's so many things happening out there. But what we want to discuss today is customer experience, customer centricity. Because honestly, there haven't been the same level of innovation there. We just put out a study today. 52% of people around the world are satisfied with the customer experience and the buying experience, which means there's still a lot of room to grow. And AI is out there. OEMs and platforms are focusing on the customer more than ever. GenAI is out there. So the ingredients are there. And I'm excited to present today a panel of people who really want to make this change happen, to make this 52% change over the time. My name is Andrew Levine. I'm partner and managing director of BCG, founder of AutoAI. But more importantly, today I have with me Wendy Bauer. She leads Automotive at Amazon Web Services. AWS is such an important player these days to make the data about customer available, to understand the customer, but more openly to understand what they need by using machine learning, deep learning, and AI and GenAI to make sense of that. Wendy, so great to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here. And of course, coming from Amazon and Amazon Web Services, thinking about the customer and the customer experience in that journey is so core to what we do and work hard at and every day. So it is certainly a topic very top of mind that we're committed to. And in fact, if you've had an opportunity to see our booth, you'll see that we focus on, in the automotive industry, the vehicle journey, of course, which is very important as we think about software-defined vehicles, but also the customer journey. So it's very intentional in our booth to really demonstrate the commitment that we have to it and the collaboration in the industry to really improve that customer experience.
Also excited to have Joe Eberhard with us. Joe is the president and CEO of Jaguar Land Rover. And many of you know Jaguar Land Rover, JLR is putting the modern luxury in the center of its strategy and is redefining that. So we're excited to learn about the OEM's perspective today. Joe, great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here, and thank you for inviting me on such an illustrious panel where hopefully I get to learn a lot today as well. So thanks for having me.
Thanks. We have Julian Schneider with us. Julian is the Chief Strategy Officer of Cars Commerce, and one of the big brands behind Cars Commerce is Cars.com. Online is growing in its relevance, and you're redefining the customer journey from a different perspective. So great to have you as well.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here. And while we don't have a booth here at CES, we've been transforming the customer experience for buying cars online at Cars.com for about 25 years. And you won't see our booth, but don't forget to see us online if you need a car.
Awesome. So excited to have Karen with us. Karen Lelouch is one of our leading the research for the BHI, the Bruce Henderson Institute, about the future of the customer interaction. She's also senior partner with BCG and helps so many OEMs to put the customer in the center of its strategy. Karen, great to have you.
Thank you, Andre. Very happy to be here today. And as you're saying, I'm doing a lot of research on how consumers' expectations are evolving, how our dealers are thinking differently about the purchasing experience they want to offer. So I'm very happy to share a bit of this today, as well as some of the new technologies that are changing and shaping the industry.
Lastly, amazing to have Norman Marks with us. Norman, you represent NVIDIA. You lead the auto group in NVIDIA. And NVIDIA, more than ever over the last year, even more, become such a relevant player in the industry. Obviously, you've ever been on the manufacturing side, in the car, but now also for customer experience, for AI, and now for GenAI, you play such an important role. Really learning about the tech trends. Great to have you as well.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a terrific panel. Like Joe said, I think we'll all learn from each other. It is an exciting time for us. We're at the convergence, and I am lucky enough to be able to be a part of autonomy, digital twins, and now infusing AI throughout all of that. So,
awesome. So let's kick it off, and let me start with Joe. My first question goes to you, because customer experience in automotive is something we just discussed needs to improve, and there is room to grow. From JLR's perspective, what role plays the customer, and what role does it play in the modern luxury strategy for you?
Yeah, thank you, Andre. I mean, obviously, it's all about the customer. That's where it starts first and foremost. And as an industry, we haven't always really done a great job in that respect. But for us at JLR, we are on a transformation journey. We're reimagining our future, and we want to become the proud creators of the most desirable brands for the most discerning of customers. Now, that's a pretty tall, goal. And in order to achieve that, really, we need to have the customer front center in everything we do. We go to market with 4 distinct brands: Range Rover, Defender, Discovery, and Jaguar. And our brands and our products certainly set a certain level of expectations, which then means we need to elevate all customer touch points across the entire value chain. That includes our retailers, which we firmly believe in the future being a combined online, e-commerce, and physical retail experience. But in order to fulfill our client expectations, we need to elevate the retail experience. So we're modernizing all of our facilities. We want them to be less confrontational. We want them to be a place where you can actually curate your car, special order your vehicle, learn about the history of the brand, as opposed to be a transactional place where you negotiate the deal, which for too long it has been. So that's a really important part, and the client expectations today are that of an omnichannel experience across both the physical and online experience. And I think that's the big challenge for us collectively, to make sure that we have a seamlessly integrated data structure that allows us, between retailers, the OEM, and our other system partners, to at all points in time know our customer, and then be able to have actually a personalized and curated interaction at every touch point.
This totally makes sense. And maybe just catching on the point of online, maybe perfect transition, Julian. Cars Commerce, Cars.com, you are redefining the customer journey from an online perspective. What role does the customer play in this journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think at Cars Commerce, and especially with Cars.com, we're all about simplifying the buying and selling experiences for customers, for dealers, and for OEMs, right? Like, how does the match happen more effectively? And I think the customer experience really, for us, listening to our customers and helping customers has like 3 forms. I think first of all, it's about creating transparency. And so when you look at the signals we get on multiple car buying experiences a year, right? It's like we are actually able to rate dealers, rate salesperson in dealerships, rate vehicles. That actually all helps create transparency on how does the match between the consumer and the dealer actually can happen in a more effective way. There's also about transparency on price, right? Where I think both in buying and selling, especially for used cars, it's a hard process for most consumers, and I think equipping consumers with the tools to understand the context around the price, and also equipping dealers to have a conversation. I think Joe mentioned confrontation, to actually take out a little bit of the adverse relationship. And in most cases, it's all about education, so that's really what we're about for that transparency aspect. I think the second aspect is about consistency in the experience. And I think, again, as Joe mentioned, a lot of the dealer body isn't going anywhere in the US, and the dealer body is going to be a big part of delivering great experiences for consumers. And so as we think about this, today, there's a lot of tech happening, there's a lot of progress happening, but just basic things that probably many of you have experienced in the hall here around getting consistent information about financing a vehicle, consistent information about trading in a vehicle. It's all over the place. And I think the whole industry is all over the place. And I think that's where collaboration with OEMs, industry partners, dealers can drive more consistency, which effectively gets a win-win for all participants.
Very good. Karen, maybe just if you reflect on the last years, what we have seen in the auto industry is that if you compare customer journeys, they were pretty homogeneous. There were spots of differentiation, but they were more or less very, very similar. And especially if you talk to see the customer results, they are pretty close. However, over the last 5 years, we have seen the first steps of differentiation. A new electric vehicle player coming up with very different customer journey, disrupted a lot of the things we thought are put in ground. We have seen in Europe direct-to-consumer models pulling up. We see the relevance of online growing. at what point or what is needed that the customer journey becomes really a point of differentiation for consumers when they decide on what they want to buy?
Well, first I would say that that shift that you're describing from like being a product-centric industry to a consumer-centric industry, that shift has happened over the past, not the past 5 years, the past 20 years, right? And this is a shift that has been progressive. It's true that it's accelerating recently because of some of the reasons that you're stating, but it's a real deep transformation that the industry is going through to be able to even change the way they think about the market, change the KPIs they're looking at, not just looking at product KPIs, but like consumer KPIs. So having consumer data that they didn't have before, not just vehicle data. So that shift has been a very deep and long transformation. Now, what we're seeing today is that still, even though some players are able to disrupt a bit the market, as you're describing, especially the electric vehicle players, we're seeing that the consumer satisfaction is still not that good, not that high. You know, some of the surveys we launched recently were showing that like about half of consumers, if you look at the US, Europe, or China, about half of consumers are happy or satisfied with their purchasing experience, which means that there is still a lot of opportunities to actually differentiate yourself as an OEM, but also as a dealer group or as a marketplace, to be able to really address the pain points. And when you think about the pain points that consumers are talking about, these pain points, again, have been quite similar over time. So there are pain points related to the online, offline, you know, non-seamless experience. So I'm starting something online, and then when I go to a dealership, I need to redo everything from scratch. So this has been true for many years, actually. Or when I go to the website, the pure online experience, when I go to the website, I don't get exactly the answers that I'm looking for. So there are many things that have existed for some time. But as you're saying, I think now it's become an imperative to finally address all these pain points and create not only a differentiation, but I think at some points, some of the players who are not going to invest on customer experience, they're going to lag behind.
Okay, so it puts it very high on the agenda if you think about that one. But let's be a bit provocative here. The challenge on the customer satisfaction score, even so the study is new, it is not new to all of us. It's out there for years. Customer centricity as a buzzword is out there for years. So let's state the facts again. 52% are only happy with the experience. It's a bit high in the US, maybe it's ranging at 69%, there's around 48 in Europe, it's only 37 in China. So it's a bit differentiated around the globe. But at the same time, 42% in the same study have reported that customer experience is a core decision factor when they decide what brand I'm going to buy next. So on the one hand side, we see a lot of unsatisfaction. On the other side, we see a lot of relevance to it. Wendy, what is the missing link here? Why hasn't it changed?
Yeah, needless to say, it's pretty complicated. I think many of the scenarios that we often talk about, we see that they span customer data that maybe sits across multiple organizations or across many aspects or points of the value chain. And so when you start to think about how to solve that, data becomes a key component of that, and access to data, and data in a usable format and accessed by the right parties who need to understand it, gain the insights to then drive the innovation to improve the experiences. And so for us at AWS, there a lot of that work and what our customers look to us for, not only a single customer, but thinking across multiple customers in the ecosystem, is how to create data access and usability to really gain those insights and then continue to innovate. And so it's an area that we are very much focused on and how to do that. So a simple example is a capability we've brought to market called AWS Clean Rooms. Very simple terms, what it does is it enables data from multi-parties to be managed in a safe and secure environment and governed. But bringing together multiple parties' data can really help you solve some of those problems that we see across the industry holistically. And then I think another aspect of what we see missing and what customers look to AWS for is we boil it down to tools, technology, and training. So clean rooms is an example of a technology we've innovated on to help solve some of those cross-industry plays. But even the training aspect, we can't understate the importance of that in how to bring new skills and capabilities and data skills into organizations so employees understand how to efficiently understand their data, work with it, innovate new capabilities for customers as well. So we're doing a lot of work on the training side as well.
And I guess it's needed because this is one of the big unlock missing. But I think we need some more hope to make this change happen. Make normal, like you see so many trends out there, tech trends. What do you think will help us to accelerate the disruption here?
Well, it's of course interesting and probably intentionally use the word acceleration in the question for me, because at the heart of what NVIDIA does is accelerate AI, data science, machine learning. It starts with basic things like a German OEM used software libraries to speed up the ingestion of connected vehicle data by 100x. Now that seems trivial, 100x speed up, but it meant the data science could work on proper AI for customer experience, right? And the connected vehicle applications of it is one example. If I think about AI and staying true to the customer experience, how many of you, like me, hailed a ride here? And you could imagine in real time, you want to know inventory. You want dynamic pricing, of course, is going to come to you. Potentially recommendations made to you in rewards programs. Well, that all has to run at light speed, right? So you all, any of you who got here the way I did, experienced it firsthand. And clearly, the faster that can run, to your acceleration comment, the better. In the online experience, recommenders are absolutely critical. And I completely agree with the point you made, Karen, but imagine being in a configurator and actually having the AI know you and make recommendations of the trim level and the package and even the pricing that could make sense and make that experience better. And of course, it does have to follow through that when you get to the dealership, that same experience is there. And I could go on and on about the opportunities for AI. Just one or two more quick examples. Service. Examples where we have an Inception startup partner of NVIDIA who's built an application where the vehicle can come in and be assessed while you as a customer are still there before you've run off. But imagine now a VR AR experience. Let's say you don't have this application from this partner. A service technician assesses something, and after you're gone, have a VR AR experience with you to show you, hey, the brakes are in need of repair. These are, just another example of where AI, I think, can have a huge impact on the customer experience, because we all know how important loyalty is in this industry. And I can say more about the autonomy side and probably will.
Absolutely. One other big disruption or hope we for years probably have seen coming is online. Julian, you represent obviously as a digital native company with customers and Cars.com, the online game. Could you share a bit of light? Where does it stand, and what role online will take in the whole customer journey in the future, maybe in the near future for us?
Yeah, I think it's really, as I was talking about earlier, I think it's going to help drive consistency, where I think a lot of the advancements all of my co-panelists talked about, I think, will eventually help us get to consistent experiences for customers, because ultimately, it's just a really challenging industry to deliver consistent experiences at scale. We're effectively trying to have it's as if you were asking McDonald's to have a fry taste the same across the globe, but let every single fry cook make their own fry. It's fundamentally the same problem. And I think with a lot of the advancements we have now, we can actually bring consistency without being overly prescriptive like a McDonald's fry making manual, and I like fries in case you haven't noticed. And so I think it's really the consistency I think is going to be a big unlock. But at the same time, consumers want to spend time configuring cars online, researching online, but we still have today 85% of the customers that say they need to touch the car, they need to try the car, they need to talk to someone. And that's across generations, and surprisingly, even Gen Z isn't the generation that has the highest online propensity. So with, I think, the physical world being such a big component of the shopping experience, I think it's a fascinating point of convergence, I think, between online and offline.
And it will remain probably. Let's see what also other trends like AR, VR, and combined with AI and GenAI can do to that. Maybe, Joe, we want to learn from the OEM's perspective. So I think it is, when we know that and we help with that and we discuss that, it is part of strategy discussions for years now. What expectation we can have to the industry, what will change in years to come from OEM's perspective? Because as Karen mentioned, the transition of OEM to put the customer in the center of decision-making of strategy is there. When do we see it at scale?
Yeah, I think the big challenge for us really is one of a business model change. On the one hand, we need the technology to enable the client journey to become what we just talked about, and we're really excited about what's out there today. But maybe from our perspective, more importantly, we also need to change the business model. And you mentioned some of the disruptors that have been able to have a direct-to-consumer model, which for the longest time we were not able to implement. If you think about it, it's really crazy what we put a customer through today. We build cars, send them to retailers. They then sit in the inventory. Retailers are trying to find clients and customers for those cars, whether they like them or not. And we mentioned a couple of times what the real challenge is consistency, price transparency, and continuity. So we have to find a way together with our retail partners to deliver that using the technology we talked about. Now, for me, it's not either or, right? It's not a pure online play or a pure physical play. It has to be seamlessly integrated. And I think that's where the traditional OEMs potentially have an advantage if we finally find a way to work together to get over that differentiation and separation between OEM and retailer. If we integrate the inventory, if we make it available seamlessly and transparently to our clients, and then add the best physical experience on top of that, then I think we finally have reached the client centricity.
This is where I want to go. Karen, you observe so many tech trends and the customer reaction in auto and outside of auto. What trend do you think will disrupt the industry and the customer experience the most?
Well, there are many trends happening, and I think Norm talked a lot about some of the AI trends that are changing the customer journey. But what I want to say is sometimes new technologies are not the core of what needs to happen, and sometimes fix the basics can actually have more value and impact. You know, just as an example, it's interesting, you mentioned AR and VR. You know, there have been a lot of tests, pilots over the past 10 years by many OEMs and dealer groups of using VR to offer, for example, virtual test drive. The truth is, it hasn't been that successful, and the reason is exactly what Julian was saying. At the end of the day, people want to see the car, they want to touch the car, they want to hear the engine, so they want a physical experience. So what I want to say is, like, interestingly, like, not all technologies are important in terms of customer experience. Some are more like gadget-oriented, and I think that's maybe the difficulty for many players to be able to understand what really drives change in behaviors versus what is nice, nice to have, but is not really changing perceptions or experience. The other thing maybe I want to add, there have been a lot of conversations already about online experience or online versus offline handoffs. I think it's also interesting to think about how to change the experience in the dealership, like the physical experience. And this is somehow, I would say, the next big thing that many players are thinking about. As you're changing your online experience, you need to reinvent what the physical experience is going to be. And I think here there are a lot of things that we can take from other industries, as you were saying. Like in the retail industry, there have been a lot of interesting innovations that I think could be brought into the automotive sector, like even doing digital twins of the stores to be able to really show understand the flows and optimize the operations in the store. So there are like many things that exist that are not yet implemented in the automotive industry. So which means that there's a lot of potential to be able to improve the customer journey.
Interesting. And speaking of innovation, it's so great to see experiments out there. We have seen, especially OEMs in Europe and in China, have started to play around with a direct-to-consumer model. It's very difficult, and to pull it off, and there are legal constraints around the world to make it a global thing. But the wish to create the consistency, to control the price, to make a more consistent customer experience is something we see being discussed across the jurisdictions in the world. One very interesting example we have seen in the US, Hyundai just announced to go on Amazon. Wendy, what can we learn from this partnership?
Yeah, before I jump in and respond on the Hyundai-specific part of your question, just taking a step back, Amazon as a company has been working on machine learning and AI and now generative AI for over 20 years. And if you think of the Amazon.com that many people shop on, it's those technologies that are fueling that e-commerce platform, and what we've learned from that and how we as a company have continued to innovate and focus on knowing our customer better to bring those personalized experiences to that shopping experience. That same technology has fueled things like our Just Walk Out technologies that are in Amazon Go, or even Alexa agents. So a lot of technology work that we've learned as a company. Now fast forward to the automotive industry. Much of our innovation that we do at a company level, inclusive of inside of AWS, comes from our deep collaborations with leading industry players across all of the different industries. And Hyundai is a great example of a customer who is very much focused on transforming end-to-end their company, not only the shopping experience for their end consumers, but how they bring vehicle technology to market faster, along with bringing operational agility. And so as part of a broader collaboration, they were very much focused on transforming that end customer experience, but what does that mean from the data I learn, and how can I now thread that back through the rest of my organization? And so back in November, the partnership between Amazon and Hyundai was announced as part of that, as you mentioned, buying vehicles on Amazon as our first customer that will be buying them on the Amazon platform. But very importantly, it's important to understand that transaction still remains with the dealer. And Hyundai really is focused on how does that experience change? What am I learning now? How do I solve some of the pain points and problems that have been identified by my fellow panelists here? But clear recognition, the dealer is not going away, and there's ways that we can continue to solve points of friction that really aren't adding value to the customer, but still giving them value via the dealer, but really solving some of those pain points and enhancing the experiences other way. So by virtue of that collaboration, of course on the AWS side, and really thinking through together what Hyundai will be learning through this experience, what their end customers' experiences will be in the feedback that they gain, the experiences that the dealer bodies themselves gain and the data they collect, will continue to unlock and peel back some of those challenges and continue to understand the role that technology can play and where we need to and can contribute by continuing to innovate.
So great you're doing that, because exactly those experiments is what we need to now foster this disruption. Maybe if we take it a step deeper, when we talk about customer centricity, which is a cool buzzword, but in the core it means we need to understand the customer. Understanding the customer usually comes along with the question of how much do I know about my customer, where's the data coming from, and to make actions out of the knowledge we gain about the customer, AI is the technology out there to kind of create actions to drive towards customer centricity. Joe, modern luxury in the core means you need to understand the customer very well. The customer is in the center of that. What role plays data, big data, advanced analytics, and AI in this journey for you?
Yeah, like most companies, we're undergoing a fundamental transformation, a digital transformation, or dare I say revolution in all parts of our business. And on the commercial side, knowing the customer certainly is key. So we have a couple of initiatives at the moment that are live. We're using big data analytics to basically come up with an inventory that more closely resembles what clients actually want. We look at what historically sold, how quickly it sold, what the profitability was. So analytics help us to match clients much better to the available inventory. We use predictive maintenance. When you come into the dealership today, we should know actually before you come into the dealership what services your car may require. We have an initiative called Intelligent Leads, where we know how you use your car today, what your payments are, how we can improve your ownership experience. For instance, going forward, we will work with configurators that will recommend what car you most likely would like. So there's so many opportunities that we are pursuing, but at the end, it all requires us collectively as system partners, dealers and manufacturers to work together.
Again, the play between the channels as well. Julian, speaking of data, Cars.com as data natives, you sit on data, you have a lot of data to process. What role plays AI in Cars.com or Cars Commerce, and how do you create benefits out of that for consumers?
I mean, we have the luxury of starting digitally, right? Like even 25 years ago. So it's and now I think we do create each month a lot of data, right? I think we have north of 25 million people each month that come shop on our marketplace. We have another tens of millions of consumers each month that go across all of the dealer websites that we help support for our partners. And so we do get a lot of intense signal and a lot of perspectives from there. And so I think a lot of that is actually infused back into the core marketplace on AI products like badging, recommendations, a lot of those little pieces that actually help improve the experience and ultimately help the consumer find a better match. I think beyond the marketplace is also the convergence of when you look at the marketplace layer and then a lot of the software layer we have with our dealer and OEM partners, like how do you actually mesh the two together and bring insights that in the past were siloed. And so a lot of that comes through just helping, for example, dealers answer the very simple question of what cars should I have on my lots? How much should I pay for the cars? How much should I sell them for? And when is it time to call it quits? And when should I just get out of the car? And those are seemingly simple questions, but hard for specific retailers to answer. And so I think that's where we've been spending a lot of time bringing that context basically so that the customers can get to better outcomes.
And obviously, being a digital native helps a lot to accelerate this journey. For many of our OEMs and other players who are transforming, it's a bit more challenging. Maybe, Norman, like we see, this is a bit of frustrating, a bit of a loaded question, because we see a lot of AI experiments, MVPs out there. However, often they do not scale. We do not see them being applied globally or at all vehicle lines, in all geographies, at all channels. What is the challenge why AI is not at scale already?
Well, AI for AV is absolutely at scale, and it's already there. When I joined NVIDIA 6 years ago, coincidentally at CES, so it's easy for me to remember my anniversary, I started here. The scale for AV is absolutely significant. Some of the largest supercomputers in the world. We're talking about thousands of our, in NVIDIA speak, DGX supercomputers are at scale. There's 30,000 of these in use today just for AV. And that's in the last 5 or 6 years. So for AV, AI is absolutely at scale. We see GenAI as the next boom that will be driving similar scale. And there's been lots of commentary about the scale that's required there, and it will be equally significant. Not to mention when you converge these two things together. AV 2.0, what you're going to see are two things happening that will drive huge scale. One is the introduction of vision language models. Even things that are explainable. For example, Wave is a startup that's publicly spoken about how it can actually help you understand why it's making the decisions it does. So for example, slowing down for a zebra crossing if I'm in the UK, and actually explain that. Now infuse vision language models with an end-to-end world model. And simply put, today, most self-driving is 40, 50 plus individual deep neural networks. In the future, you're going to see all of those fused into one world model, one very, very, very large model. And both the training of it and the ability for that to run in vehicle requires a supercomputer scale, really a data center in the car. So we're there. From my perspective, AI is already at scale.
So I think others need to catch up, but it's there. It's possible. It's not a vision. Let me take one of the biggest buzzwords these days, GenAI. I think in the Consumer Electronics Show, GenAI is everywhere. Also last year, it was such an impressive innovation power, creativity unlock last year. GenAI did so much, but it did so much also to customer experience. We see chatbots everywhere. We see hyper-personalization in real time, but moreover, we see a huge productivity boost and a cost reduction opportunity for all players along the value chain. Wendy, GenAI, you're in the center of it. How do you see this trend kind of changing the game?
Yeah, I would say if we take a step back and look at kind of last year's explosion of the topic of GenAI that hit the world by frenzy in many ways, we have observed customers across the entire value chain and frankly across every industry, but speaking of automotive, really going from either very quick experimentation and trying to understand the tech and get comfortable with it, but as part of that process, figuring out where do I actually get value out of the use cases that I'm driving. And or to the other extreme, companies that really didn't understand it, didn't have a strategy, and felt they were going to get left behind, and so they had this level of anxiety, so they just had to start moving. But we've now seen, very importantly, we've seen kind of that hyperactivity start to shift into clear demos, clear focus, clear understanding of where do I do it, where don't I, right? Because we also have to think about affordability and cost. So we see the maturity of moving workloads into production. So it is here, customers are seeing value, and so it's not a future topic, it's value being generated today from the technology. And I think part of our focus at AWS right now is very much helping to democratize the technology, access, capability, understanding, and continuing to innovate. For us, it's around bringing customer choice and flexibility, which means innovating a full stack capability and also even via API offering access to a host of foundational models, leading foundational models by a variety of partners as well. And very importantly, we're continuing to innovate in building our own chips. So all the complete stack, all the way down to the chip layer to really ensure that affordability is key. So as you think about all the new innovations, that's great. We also have to have a cost profile that can work for the businesses that have to bring them to market. So we're also thinking about it from that aspect as well.
So like why 2023 on GenAI was a big experiment with the ingredients, with the maturity you describe, with the affordability you describe. 2024, we have it all to make it value at scale as well. Karen, you observe a lot of GenAI trends this year, today and for the year to come. What is it you think it will disrupt, and how will we disrupt the customer experience?
So it's really disrupting many steps of the customer experience, and maybe I'm going to share some of the pilots or experimentations that we're seeing already happening with some of the players in the market. At the beginning, at the top of the funnel, there are a lot of pilots around using GenAI just from a pure marketing standpoint, marketing purpose. So it's generating content, creatives for advertising in a very personalized way at scale, in a cost-efficient way. And this is really one of the key use cases we're seeing in the market that many players are experimenting, and that is driving a lot of impact short term. If you go a bit more mid-funnel, we're seeing a lot of experiments on the website on somehow building a virtual assistant or a companion or a bot, however you want to call it, that would help the consumer online navigate the offer. So we talked about configurator online. Of course, that exists already today, but like the fact to have the ability to have a bot, a conversational agent that helps you navigate which features, equipment make sense for you depending on your needs and the usage you want to have on the car. This is a real revolution versus the way the configuration are done today. So that's another piece on which we're seeing a lot of things happening. And then there is a third piece, which is using GenAI to help the people who are in a direct interaction with the consumers. So let me explain what I mean. So either you're talking about the calls, if there's a call center for service, so consumers calling the call center because they have a problem with a car or something is happening, and there you can use GenAI actually to be able to support, to guide the call center agents so that they can be more efficient. They have dynamic script that adapts to the consumer's questions, and then they can answer the questions much better and in a more efficient way. So that's also cost reduction and better satisfaction. And you can apply this also to the dealers, so a bit differently. But what we're seeing is some pilots to also use generative AI to train the dealers at scale, especially as we're having all these new EV models coming to the market, as a way to really help them train all the sales advisors so that they would know more about the speech and the details of the selling propositions of each of the cars. So there are a lot of different applications all along the customer journey. I would say that for now, what we're seeing is more pilots here and there. It's not yet the entire new customer journey which is defined, but I think this is going to happen very soon.
We're looking forward. 2024 will be excited. And Norm, we talked about that. On top of your usual craziness, GenAI made 2023 even more crazy for you.
Sure
how
did.
crazy will 2024 will be, and how do you see GenAI evolving from your perspective?
Well, I hope it continues like it has for the last 2 days for those of you who might be an NVIDIA stockholder. But putting that aside, I couldn't help myself. Let me talk about two things in GenAI that I see exploding in the next year. One is what I'll describe as the creation of 3D pipelines, digital twins, immersive experiences. I'll bring that to life for you in a second. The second is the infusion of large language models. In this experience, starting with the cockpit, everything from experiencing the owner's manual in a very simple way to intelligent interactions in the cockpit, but that should carry through to chatbots, it should carry through to online. I've already talked about that. Let me end by bringing 3D pipelines to life, and with our great partner JLR, I can't help myself. I'll give you this example. For those of you who don't know, we're building the software stack for JLR's autonomous vehicles. We have a vested interest in them selling as many as possible. Imagine an immersive experience where you would start off saying, show me a Range Rover in my driveway in a stormy sky. But then let's go farther with that. Show me a Range Rover driving on a coastal highway. Show me a Range Rover driving in the mountains. Now back to autonomy. Show me the autonomous driving experience of a Range Rover on a highway, and imagine seeing in this online experience, I see the bounding boxes that were detecting vehicles and pedestrians and a bouncing ball with a child running across. And I actually get to see that live, and I experience the autonomy in a test drive live, virtually. What a change that this will be to allow us to sell more vehicles. I just think it's a tremendous role that we have ahead of us, and GenAI for 3D infused in, as well as LLM, is really going to be a game changer this next 12 months.
Really exciting. So we are already finishing up our time. It's going very, very fast. But if we recap, the industry has innovated the car, very honestly. It has not yet innovated the customer experience. But what we hear very loud and clear, OEMs, platform players, dealer groups, everyone is putting the customer in the center of its strategy. What we hear is AI is out there to make use out of the data we have, combine the data, understand what customer needs are, and to make actions out of that. And we have GenAI to now unlock and accelerate significantly the communication, the interaction of our customers. So all ingredients are there. Big thanks to the panel, because with your mindsets, with the drive and your agenda you have, I think the change will happen. Wendy, Joe, Julian, Karen, Norm, thanks so much for being with us and sharing your thoughts. Thanks everyone for joining the panel. We wish you a delightful consumer electronics shows here in Vegas and an amazing start into 2024. Thanks for it.